That's the choice we face. Do you want a leader from a different generation who's going to put this country first, or do you want Dick Cheney in 3-inch heels?
All right, Mr.
In which case, we've got two of them on stage.
Mr. Ramaswamy, thank you. Senator Scott, yes. Senator, same question to you.
Like my heart, Bootgate goes on and on and on, Florida. The grift that keeps on grifting. You know, one of the thankless tasks of filmmakers having to make a Star Wars sequel is that best case scenario, you're trying to make the 4th best Star Wars movie. Such was the case with the GOP debate in Miami at the Adrian R. Center this week. Everyone vying for a distant second. In the case of Nikki Haley, I think maybe vying for Donald Trump's running mate. Who was the winner? Once again, probably Donald Trump, who didn't even show up. Man was across town at Hialeah doing his own rally.
We sure that it's not going to be Tucker Carlson as his running mate?
I'm almost positive of that, but I'm more interested in hearing who cares what I have to say.
Everybody cares.
Let's hear from our Miami debate roundtable. We've got David Weigel, son of the first state of Delaware, political reporter for Semafor. You've read him in Washington Post, Slate, Bloomberg Politics, one of the great campaign reporters of our time, and Marc Caputo. Marc Caputo, reared in Key West, Florida, national political reporter for The Messenger. I read him since my childhood, Miami Herald, Politico, NBC News.
Thanks for making me feel old.
He is the best source journalist on the DeSantis campaign. Gentlemen, I'm one. First, Dave, main takeaway from last night, other than watching that debate was cheaper than Ambien, slightly less sleep eating. What was the big takeaway from that debate?
You're right that nothing changed vis-a-vis Trump and these people. I think that was probably the Tim Scott farewell tour. It might be the last time we mentioned him in this thing. And
was he there?
He was there.
Oh.
He came with a plan to nail Haley on abortion, and he tried and failed, and that was it. I mean, you could just kind of see it hit the wall and fall down with nothing happening. A little bit. I mean, they didn't. I'm so interested in the media parts of this debate because NBC really was friendly to these candidates. It's the only non-conservative outlet that's got a debate so far. Only one they're not going to do it next month. They're doing Megyn Kelly and some other people.
Stormfront TV.
Yeah. they had
Der Stürmer. Yeah.
So a good, I think, what was it, 45 minutes spent on the Navy fleet size from Hugh Hewitt. Just there were not many attempts to
well, and DeSantis loves that. He's the Navy guy, right? He gets the Navy guy.
Yeah, not many attempts to nail these candidates.
Yeah, he went full Francis Buxton from the beginning of Pee-wee's Big Adventure and his big, playing with his warships and his big tub there. But, I mean, yeah, Marc Caputo, did anything change?
No, no, it didn't. I mean, this has been kind of the waiting for Godot primary, right? Like the play about nothing where the guy never arrives. Or maybe to be a little less literary, Ricky Bobby. Second place is first place for losers. So essentially, this was a battle for that. A lot of pressure on DeSantis because he was clearly the number 2. And after the first 2 debates, Nikki Haley was the one who arguably did better. Mm-hmm. And so DeSantis,
she was the one dodging most of the barbs last night too, which bodes.
Vivek just hates her, right? Yeah. But the reality is like DeSantis comes in there needing to have a moment to really stand up, really rise up above the others and really make a statement. And by that standard, he didn't. I'm not saying he lost the debate, but he needs to do better to keep himself from not being the clear number 2. Because that's what this is a battle for, the clear number 2.
We're going to talk about DeSantis in the next segment, but I thought about DeSantis, David, the way that you thought about Tim Scott. This felt to me like sitting Shiva for Ron DeSantis's presidential campaign. And I do want to talk about this, though, some of the issues, because it did feel actually pretty substantive or pretty wonky parts of this debate.
DeSantis is a wonky guy too. I mean, he has a lot of good conservative policy,
and that's what I mean. I'm not saying DeSantis was happy with the debate. He was happy with the questions. Yeah. The one thing you didn't get a back and forth, which is what people remember. I mean, a week after these debates, what people remember.
They remember the conflict.
They remember the conflict. You don't remember the talking points, with the exception of Haley, who just keeps. There really is a sort of Men in Black mind erasing thing happen, where Haley gives the exact same answer on abortion every time. Every time Frank Luntz says, "Wow, if only they said that, they could win every election." And then the next month, she'll give the same answer, which is not an answer you can use in the election. Hey, we're going to punt this down the road. Don't worry about it. We're not going to do a
kick the can down the road.
Yeah. But yeah, he did not have a memorable moment. I'm not saying you need to attack to win the debate. The winning is just, can you convince Republican voters that they love Donald Trump, but you would be more effective in implementing a real conservative agenda? He didn't really do that. I mean, he has done it in Florida, and he didn't really do it again.
Right, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, because hate Ron DeSantis, love Ron DeSantis, whatever. Arguably, the guy has delivered on almost all conservative policy, abortion, the woke left, et cetera. You name it, he's done it.
And you would think he'd have an advantage coming off literally the day after another MAGA election night bloodbath with headlines from The Atlantic like Republicans can't figure it out. Your alma mater, Politico, saying we are the angry party of nothing. Why Republicans lost so badly? So why why weren't they able to, I guess, distinguish?
But what was his answer on that? We won in 2022. Okay. You beat Charlie Crist. Congratulations. And what is the plan for Act Two? And it never came out.
And his suggestion, and similar to what you're saying about Frank Luntz talking about Nikki Haley, is not understanding that the problem Republicans have, at least in many other places, and maybe even in Florida, is abortion restrictions are not popular. Like, abortion is more popular than restrictions.
Well, let's talk about that, because there are places. Kentucky, Ohio, even Georgia, all bluer than Florida. Now, you can argue, but Florida seems immune to this trend of the populace swinging a little bit more to the left. We do have possibly abortion on the ballot in Florida, several other states next year. But why? Why not Florida? Why can't the Democrats get their act together in Florida?
I mean, it's a variety of things. Number one, Florida, just by its structure, imports Republican supervoters. Who comes here? Well, people who have money, who don't want to pay taxes, and they want to be around other like-minded people. So you're going to score out as white, old, and wealthy. Well, that makes you, generally speaking, a Republican supervoter. And then the party itself, the Democratic Party, has done a terrible job of organizing. Yeah. They don't have a very good bench. It's a big state. It's expensive. And then there's an entire other Latino problem that Democrats generally are experiencing, especially in Florida, as more of a right-wing drift happens with Hispanic voters.
Yeah, I read that headline. Governor Beshear says his reelection in Kentucky shows Democrats can win anywhere. And I thought, Florida says they can't. Dave Weigel, there were large passages of the debate this week that felt like the Israeli presidential debate. I wasn't sure if this were, which primary this was that I was watching, but it seemed like a real opportunity for Republicans to kind of draw a line in the sand, throw a lot of shade at the situation on college campuses, which a winning issue again for DeSantis in a lot of ways, and kind of say like, well, we are the party of Israel. We after watching neo-Nazis march at Disney World and DeSantis being silent on this.
Waving DeSantis flags.
Waving DeSantis 2024 flags. Absolutely. Suddenly, this was an opportunity for Republicans to say we are the difference maker here.
Yeah, and they did focus more on college campuses. That was the Republican Jewish Coalition, Matt Brooks, who asked that question, more than on the Biden policy, which they're not disagreeing with. This is a problem that Biden has on the left that's not shown up in an election yet, is that he is pursuing differently, I think, than Barack Obama would have done. He is arm in arm with an unpopular Israeli government doing what they say. So it turned to who is going to deport the most college students, who is going to suppress the most pro-Palestinian activists. This blurring you've seen that does have 9/11 echoes of if you are protesting what Israel is doing, you are pro-Hamas. Or 20 years ago, it was you're objectively pro-Saddam if you're protesting what we're doing in Iraq. They all agreed on that. Ramaswamy, with the exception, making this free speech argument, but he has no traction. He is surging in his negative ratings, I should say, have been surging faster than anybody else. Like Iowa, New Hampshire, every poll it's up to about 40% of Republicans say I'm not considering this guy. So he's doing his thing, which sounds like a real-time podcast. It's very exciting. But the base is with that argument. It's like, not only do we want to do whatever Israel says, if you are protesting Israel, you are basically Hamas. We want to kick you out of the country. We're going to take your universities' federal funding, et cetera. They all agreed.
Marc Caputo, Nikki Haley, running mate for Donald Trump?
I think possible. I wouldn't bet on it. The thing is, this is just getting to know the mind of Donald Trump. And that's a very difficult thing, right? I'm bad in Spanish, so the lo que salga de los cojones or something like that, which whatever comes out of his balls, which is a phrase in Cuban slang phrase.
That sounds disgusting.
Yeah, no, but that's what it is. I mean, that's actually used to describe a certain type of strongman.
You're just easy answer.
Yeah, and I think it applies. I have to pause to be called scum, but that I think well defines kind of Trump. I mean, he just kind of lives in the moment. He does what he wants to do.
To pivot back to Israel for a moment, I do wonder from both of you in the last couple of minutes of this segment, the DHC, as I call it, the Democratic Hamas Caucus. I mean, the Republicans have allowed the lunatics to take over the asylum. I think we saw that in the United States House the past month.
Gracias, Matt Gaetz.
But what of, but while accusing, by the way, every accusation is a confession. What of, the Democrats seem to be at a crossroads here, right? You mentioned it has not reflected yet in Biden in the election, but certainly in the poll numbers. Like, are they going to let the left-wing faction of the party hijack the party the way the Republicans have the right, leaving the vast majority of moderates in both parties of this country completely unrepresented? What's going to happen in 2024 with this Israel issue?
I have absolutely no idea. Generally, one of the things you can say about Biden is he finds a way often to reflect kind of the middle of the country, the middle sentiment. When you look at not his approval ratings over handling the economy or foreign policy, but if you break down what he has done so far, or at least as of a few days ago, about wanting to get more humanitarian aid, getting hostages released, being arm in arm with Israel, so far his policies all score out very popularly in polls.
That's the thing. Democratic leadership is moderate. It's always been, and the loudest voices from the left don't seem to have any power. They're loud, and
not yet.
But
you saw that with the Republican Party. There was a takeover, right, of the base or the wing of the party, and sure, could happen with Dems.
That's not happening.
You're goddamn right, meatball.
I mean, it's not even clear that Democrats are going to spend a lot of money. AIPAC is coming in. Democratic majority for Israel. All these PACs are coming in to beat anyone who wants a ceasefire right now, and it's unclear if Democrats who want to flip the House are even going to spend money. So I think it's more likely there's 2 or 3 fewer progressive Democrats in safe seats than they take over the party.
When we come back, Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump in Hialeah, the Brooklyn or Staten Island of Miami.
And your Congressman Carlos Gimenez, do you know him? Carlos Gimenez. Some people say Carlos Gimenez. Oh, you don't like him? Really? What's going on? Carlos, come on, Carlos. Well, you got to get that straightened out. Carlos Gimenez. Really? Wow. Carlos.
Why don't they just write it phonetically on his teleprompter so it says H, Gimenez, instead of G, which of course
Gimenez.
That was Donald Trump this week counter-programming the GOP primary debate at the Adrian R. Center in downtown Miami. He was across town in Hialeah, which realtors will tell you is the Brooklyn of Miami. It's now one of the least affordable housing markets in the entire country in Hialeah. It's also the #1 city in the country for Obamacare registrants. So it's an interesting dichotomy. It also over 97%.
96. I think it's 96.
Real, I think it's 97% now speak Spanish at home or speak a language.
Oh, I know it's 96% Hispanic. I think in this.
Oh yeah, but they
Carlos.
Shouldn't be so funny.
So I want to talk about Roy. Poor Roy.
Carlos.
Carlos. Ay, Dios mío. So, but let's talk about that for a second. Ron DeSantis, I mean, does anybody buy this? I mean, Ron DeSantis went to Harvard, went to Yale. He's governor of the state with the highest rate of inflation. While inflation is coming down in most other states, it is going up here. We have the least affordable housing markets. We have, I mean, the insurance in every sector is absolutely through the roof. And this guy is on TV complaining about elitists who don't care about our grocery bills. Does the base buy this at all?
Does the base buy it? Not from DeSantis. No.
You're goddamn right, meatball.
No, it has not. It has not been clicking. I mean, if you're into these early states and you've been out there, the crowds are not. They're not big. They do believe. By they, I should say the Republican primary voters. He cannot compete with the idea that things were really great under Trump for 3 years and a couple months, and he will snap his fingers and come back to that. That's a much better argument, it turns out, than look what I did in Florida. It's much better to say, do you remember remember what your 401k was in February 2020? That's the pitch. The DeSantis thing doesn't even matter. Yeah.
Speaking of which, you had a story about Hialeah. It's probably one of the many stories why the DeSantis team just adores you right now. But it doesn't seem like DeSantis is performing there.
I mean, the thing is that Donald Trump, the biggest mistake that DeSantis made is that he decided to run against Donald Trump in a Republican primary. I mean, Donald Trump is a cultural figure, and he was beforehand. He is a pinnacle of success in the eyes of his voters. And Hispanic voters in this county, when you talk to people, and you can't get a more Hispanic city in this very Hispanic county than Hialeah, is they don't just like Donald Trump for the things that Republicans like Donald Trump for. A lot of them are of Cuban, Venezuelan, Nicaraguan, Colombian descent. And they appreciated his crackdown on Cuba, his getting tough with Venezuela, and they see his prosecutions as political persecutions that have a Latin American banana republic flavor. I'm not saying they're right. I'm just saying this is how they perceive him. And you add all those things together, it's very difficult for anyone to compete against Trump with these voters in places like Hialeah. We had a poll done for us or on our behalf by a firm that sampled 1,000 people in Miami-Dade County, Republicans, and it found that in a head-to-head matchup, Trump was beating DeSantis by 3-1.
Wow.
Yeah, I just that's hard.
Marc Caputo.
Carlos!
Jeremy Redfern, the official spokesperson for Governor Ron DeSantis, is not happy with you. He tweeted this week, super mad.
Last night.
Big mad.
On Wednesday
Big mad.
Wednesday night.
Mark Caputo is lying by omission due to his new position as Team Trump's official media spokesman. First of all, Magatov on your new position as Team
no
Trump's
longer
official
liberal media apparently. I'm not Trump media.
But I ask, what is Redfern so pissed off about?
Because I posted on Twitter or X during the debate.
Twitter
X.
Twitter X. Yeah. Twitter, Malcolm's
Terminator
brother.
X. But I posted during the debate when Nikki Haley had told or said to DeSantis that he scrubbed his the Enterprise Florida website of China references. And I wrote a story about that, and indeed he did. So I said that she was telling the truth, and I put a link to the story. But I guess he didn't like the language of my post, even though the story was there and explained.
So he was angry that you told the truth and that Nikki Haley told the truth.
There are stages of grief that people go through in politics. And when your candidate is doing as badly as Ron DeSantis is, you're going to see a lot of Ron DeSantis people really lash out. You see this with any campaign, any candidate, whenever there's coverage that is reflecting the reality of their candidate's position.
He's done a lot of that, and they don't have a good baseline for it because of the way they handled most of the media for so long. They didn't need the media. Now they do. And so late in the game, they're saying, hey, here's some opposition research that doesn't hold up at all. Can you please run it for us?
But just to be clear, Jeremy Redfern, I've always found, at least with me, has been very professional. I appreciate him. I mean, he's angry there, so fine, whatever. But, whatever.
Dave Weigel, have you ever seen in the history of campaigns, as long as you've been covering them and before that, a campaign that has cratered quite as dramatically, whose fortunes have turned quite as dramatically as the DeSantis campaign?
Not one that was leading in polls in the beginning and then fell. I mean, you saw Kamala Harris rise and fall. I mean, I could do it since 2008. You saw Hillary decline, but then she won the primary, and he was. If you go back to before he announced. Very easy to find Republicans on the record saying he would win if the primary was held, if the caucus was today, the primary Sununu in New Hampshire, it was held today, and it was true, and that's why he got a lot of endorsements as he entered the race, because there were Republicans in these early states who don't necessarily like everything about him, if you can imagine, but they said this guy's a winner. He won in Florida. He would win the state today. I want to be on his side, and they're kind of locked in because yes, he has campaigned. Both the main thing is Donald Trump exists. We've gone through this. Like no one is beating Donald Trump in this Republican Party. But as he went through, as nothing worked, as nothing clicked, as people come to his events, they start applauding at the beginning and they applaud less and less as it goes I saw one commentary yesterday. I saw was that he needs to drop the teleprompter, be unleashed. He's never had a teleprompter. He goes off the dome and off some notes, and it has not been connecting for various reasons. So I've not seen anyone come in with the front runner sheen and blow that.
Marc Caputo, it did seem that the governor switched to flats for the debate this week, and so kind of went his confidence. He just didn't have those extra couple of inches, it seemed. But you are clearly, Marc Caputo, going to be the journalist that writes that 10,000-word TikTok on what happened over the last year of the DeSantis campaign. You're going to be the guy that writes that story. What is the lead? What is the sneak preview on that?
It is a quote from Chris LaCivita, who's a co-campaign manager for Donald Trump. I asked why, if Ron DeSantis loses, why? He said he never established a dominance, period. And in the end, the problem with the campaign is that he ran against Donald Trump, and it's difficult to run against someone, but then not run against him. Like, he wouldn't attack Trump.
Right.
He offered him, amnesty when he was indicted. Yeah.
Well, he kind of did. He was kind of half in and half out throughout. That's just really difficult to deal with. And let's face it, the indictments, starting with the first one in New York, those gave a boost to Trump and cause the other candidates, or in this case DeSantis, to decline. You actually see it in the polling averages like the fever graph.
Yeah, it's not like a Jeb Bush problem where there were all these heresies Jeb Bush had where the base didn't like it. It's a skill issue that he's not that good at this and at everything you said. It's weird that somebody who has no problems with anything the base says they care about is doing this badly, but he is.
So I have to ask you, both of you, versus Dave, is this the end, ostensibly, of Ron DeSantis' political career? It seems like Casey it might be on the rise, Casey DeSantis, but did he blow it for 2028? Is he not going to be taken seriously in a national campaign after this?
There'd need to be a lot of work done to change an image that, I don't know who his team would be in a future race. He'd be out of the governor's office. There are not that many Republican governors in great positions to run for president. There are a bunch of them, but kind of a reversal of 2016. They had a pretty mediocre couple cycles. They don't have good swing state governors. He still is going to come in as a mega state governor with this record. I don't know what the economic record will look like when he leaves, but with a record you can brag about. But there. I don't want to be, because it's like, how charismatic could I? Hey, I hate judging someone else's charisma. But once you're out there, this happened.
You got more of an advantage over this guy.
There is no way around it. If you are not good on the stump, if people think you're awkward, that sticks. And the history is full of people being unfairly judged, maybe because of looking awkward on a video. But once it's locked in, it is so hard to undo. And I don't think he is he politically dead. Could he win the Senate seat? Could he run again? Maybe. It's just over the last 6 months, my normal friends who don't cover politics all the time, he went from, the guy who kept Florida open during COVID to the dorky guy with the boots. And, that might stick. Yeah.
Well, it certainly seems like Casey is wearing the high heel boots in the family now.
I'm not going to respond to that. I don't know how to
respond to the original question. Then
no, I don't think his career is over per se. The question is what office can he run for, which will be open. But his favorability ratings throughout this have been very high. One of the through lines you hear when you talk to Republicans is, "Look, I like Ron DeSantis. I just want Donald Trump to be president." One thing I think should sort of be clear about DeSantis's sort of issues is he doesn't have that advisor that most candidates have, who is sort of a senior graybeard who can tell him what to do. He doesn't keep the counsel of other people. He doesn't necessarily listen to them. And you learn a lot more from your losses than from your wins. So there's sort of like an inverse relationship between wisdom and winning. And he won so big in 2022 by 20 points. I wonder if it actually, from a campaign perspective, made him a little dumber. Made him think he was greater than he was. And speaking of the post-mortem on his campaign, there were a number of times where he was told, engage with the media, do more media. This is an earned media campaign, not a paid media campaign. He did the opposite, right? Now he's doing it. He's now on Morning Joe complaining about Donald Trump, right? This is the guy who used to complain about the corporate media, and now he's NBC's best friend. So that's the situation he's in.
Oh, that's BS.
And he's not
totally BS.
That he's really not bad at. He's not. He's not bad at the interview. He does not get stumped on things. He knows his policy. This is the thing. He has he has these political talents, but it's really the Trump branding. I don't think Democrats would be able to do this to him because they have some awkward candidates. Kamala Harris, who had a perception as a grand charismatic candidate, that changed over time. These can be reversed. These can be massaged. So he still has those basic talents and everything you said. I don't think he ends the primary with most Republicans hating him like Vivek is on the path to. I think it ends as good guy, not his time, kind of weird.
Vivek is running for a book deal though, and he's probably already
or podcast.
Correct.
He already has a podcast.
He's run a very smart campaign for someone who's not actually intending to become president.
Marc Caputo, last question before we go, because I think conventional wisdom is DeSantis is going to come back from Iowa wounded here in the state. I happen to think the legislature is going to fall right back in line with him as the potential future of the party. What do you think is going to happen as a lame duck DeSantis returning from a losing GOP primary campaign?
DeSantis has not only the veto pen, but the penchant for using it in a vindictive way. And lawmakers ultimately get elected so they can pass bills and bring hometown spending back to their districts. And DeSantis knows that. He'll have the leverage. I don't think he'll be diminished in Tallahassee.
Do you honestly believe that's credible?
I do.
Marc Caputo, themessenger.com, David Weigel, Semafor.com. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It was election night in Miami this week, Roy.
Oh,
there was
God.
3 commission seats in the city of Miami up for grabs, one of which was District 1, which we have covered ad nauseum on this program because it is the district of Alex Diaz de la Portilla, and he came in first. He got the most votes out of any of the, I think, 5 candidates that were running in that race, Roy.
How?
Because Miami, Roy. What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, that's true. I always forget.
Yeah. For those of you who don't remember who Alex Diaz La Portilla is, he is the city commissioner, who was arrested just 2 months ago for public corruption, including charges of bribery, money laundering, and campaign finance crimes. Now, here's the thing, though, Roy. Don't despair.
No, I mean, that's too late. Why are you asking me this now? Don't despair. No, it's too late.
Despair in the next block when we do the Wheel of Despair. Then you can despair.
I'll save it for that.
What I'm telling you is that actually, as far as elections go in the city of Miami, this was a pretty solid night for democracy. And I say that because in order to win, even though Alex Diaz La Portilla got the most votes, he got 37% of the votes to Miguel Gabella's 29%. In order to win outright, on election night here, you need 50% of the votes plus 1 vote. Which he did not get, which means that in 2 weeks, we go to a runoff between Diaz La Portilla and Miguel Gabella, who came in second. And I will tell you, the numbers look good that in 2 weeks, Gabella could conceivably take it. And also, in District 2, you'll remember we had some of the candidates on this show from District 2 who are running against Sabina Kovo. I really wish I had a card for that. Oh, wait, I do.
You know what? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't even know.
So
Covo Kovo.
That's the one. You need to do a cappella cover of that song, right? Please don't vote for Kovo. But in that D2 race, you have Damian Pardo, who was our guest a couple weeks ago on Because Miami. He came in second and will face Sabina Kovo in a runoff. So what I'm saying is that in 2 weeks from now, Roy, there's actually a chance for voters to go and do the right thing. They could really transform the City of Miami Commission, and they can really form a voting bloc against Joe Coro.
Little Billy Corben.
And I don't know, we could see some. I look at it, Roy, as sea level rise half full is how I look at it.
Really?
I'm you know me, I'm the eternal optimist.
Yeah, well, I'm a glass half empty kind of guy, and I can tell you that I'm looking at this through the eyes of a realist, and I see that not happening, Billy, because we are glutton for punishment. We are gluttons for punishment. You
think we're going to get both of these wrong?
Yeah.
You think we're going to reelect Kovo and Diaz-Portilla, because you know what will happen? If Diaz-Portilla gets elected again, he'll be removed from office like he was 2 months ago by Governor Ron DeSantis. You think we're going to do that again?
Yeah.
I think that there is a distinct possibility that we do the right thing. I really, really do. And I think the voters are tired of the incumbents. I think they're tired of Joe Coro. I think they want to see some new names, some new blood, and some people who are going to actually push back. I think there is an anti-incumbent movement in the city of Miami.
You are so naive. I pray for you.
Now, there's more good news, though.
Really?
You remember our friends at Ball and Chain on Calle Ocho in Little Havana?
Yes.
The business owners who just this past summer won a $63.5 million judgment against Joe Coro for violating their civil rights, their First Amendment rights, their private property rights in an effort at political retaliation because they supported Joe Coro's.
In God we trust. It is that God that's been protecting me.
They supported Joe Coro's opponent when he first ran for election 5 years ago. And here's what happened just this week. And we broke this news on the @BecauseMiami Twitter X. Is that what we call it?
Twitter X.
We call Twitter 10
Yes.
On the Twitter 10 site. Miami business owners are suing the city of Miami, Commissioner Joe Coro, and now 11 city government officials personally, individually, who, quote, engaged in a well-known, widespread, and pervasive custom of weaponizing city resources to target and harass them. This is a lawsuit well over $60 million, and now the taxpayers are very much on the hook. Because here's the thing, and we talked about this over the summer, that trial against Joe Coro, that was a month-long trial in federal court, and jurors sat and listened to, I think, at least 36 witnesses. They were introduced to hundreds, if not thousands, of exhibits of pieces of evidence. And they found that Joe Coro did not act alone. They found that he weaponized city government and various agencies and departments of the city to target these business owners. The defendants now include Miami City Manager Art Noriega, City Attorney Victoria Mendez, Assistant City Attorney Rachel Dooley, the Fire Marshal, the Zoning Director, the Building Director, the Senior Chief of Unsafe Structures, and a member of the Code Enforcement Board. And that's not all. The complaint details, with testimony and emails and evidence, how the city operated like a mafia, one might even say, for Joe Coro's political revenge. The message in Miami city government was clear. Either you commit crimes and get promoted, or you refuse and we demote or we fire you, just like a mafia. I mean, the city of Miami, as I've said and continue to say, and the evidence bears out, is a criminal racketeering enterprise masquerading as a municipal government. And there are people there, elected and appointed, who don't belong in City Hall. They literally belong in prison. So Coro, according to this complaint, and I've seen the list, they introduced it as evidence, drew up a hit list.
A hit list, like a mafia.
That's how they describe it. Hit list is in quotes, of all the plaintiff's properties and businesses, so that the complicit co-conspirators in the city could target them. How do they target them? Police raids, false arrests of their staff and managers, unjustified fines going into the, we're talking about into the 7 figures. They revoked permits. They changed city laws, Roy. They changed ordinances just to target these guys and their properties. And they even tried to condemn and demolish their property. I mean, it's like we're in communist Cuba here. And what's great is that the lawsuit repeatedly cites public statements and sworn testimony from prominent figures like Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, former city manager Emilio Gonzalez, and 2 former police chiefs. And they're all warning about Coro and the city government's unconstitutional misconduct. You ready for the fun part?
No.
The suit says that current city manager Art Noriega, quote, lectured city staff that when they witnessed wrongdoing by Commissioner Carollo, they should be a goldfish, meaning they should have a 10-second memory and thereby be the happiest animal on earth. He even bought them all T-shirts that said, be a goldfish.
So he stole a line from the TV show Ted Lasso.
Be a goldfish.
Sports.
Unbelievable.
I will tell you, I'm going to get right to the Goodwill in Little Havana right now and try to find me a Be a Goldfish T-shirt. I want one of those so bad. Get this, and this is it feels like kind of a shout out to me, but according to the complaint, Miami City Attorney Victoria Mendez, who I've referred to as a mob lawyer, protecting all of the illegal, immoral, and unethical conduct of this city government. But this is how they refer to her. This is a direct quote from the lawsuit. She operates as the Black Widow for Commissioner Carollo. Hang on. It gets so good. In much the same manner as Griselda Blanco Restrepo.
Oh, wow.
The cocaine godmother, La Madrina, operated as the Black Widow for the Medellin cartel. And they refer to Assistant City Attorney Rachel Dooley as Mendez's, quote, personal assassin, end quote. The lawsuit claims that there were violations of their constitutional right to free speech and freedom of association and a civil conspiracy to violate their constitutional right to free speech and free association. And I will tell you right now, this has already been tried. These facts, this evidence, these witnesses, as I mentioned, $63.5 million judgment, and they're going to get another one. And what they're claiming here is that this misconduct is happening on an ongoing basis, which means that those damages, those real damages, are going to get higher and higher and higher. And once the jury calculates the damage to their reputation, personal humiliation, emotional distress, plus the punitive damages to punish, penalize, and deter the future recurrence of defendants' conspiratorial and reprehensible conduct. I love this song. And the attorney's fees. It is perfectly conceivable, Roy, that this case, and they have a third case as well, will bankrupt the city of Miami. So as I said, lots of good news this week because Miami.
This is Cuban mahogany. It cannot be cut. This was not cut. This tree fell and was harvested during a hurricane. The same colleague that took the picture actually made this. He was a woodsman. And he determined that this nail right here was 1985 when my father was elected mayor. And this nail that he put in the tree, he counted the rings all the way through to this nail, which was 2017 when I got elected. So this tree lived the exact lifespan, or I lived longer, but this is the exact lifespan between his election in 1985 and my election in 2017.
First of all, that's not what a woodsman is. A woodsman is not one that crafts wood. That's like a woodworker. Or
what the hell is he talking about?
Or a carpenter.
Mr. Mayor, you're brilliant. You were super smart.
And you Cuban mahogany, is that what you're stuck on?
Financial literacy skills.
I'm stuck on the nail situation.
The nails.
He's making that shit up, Billy.
Distance of the nails from the rings. But I want to know what Cuban mahogany is, and we have a top 5 for that.
No.
We do. It's the top 5 list of what is Cuban mahogany. Number 5. Dan Le Batard's new weed strain. It's a sativa. Number 4, it's what we call morning wood in Little Havana. This is top 5 list. What is Cuban mahogany? Number 3, Cuban mahogany is the 3rd place finisher in the last race at Flagler Dog Track.
Won by a nose.
Bang, bang, snort, snort.
What is Cuban mahogany? Number 2, the shade of makeup that Trump wore at the Hialeah rally this week. Carlos! And number 1, Cuban mahogany is Francis Suarez's drag name. Roy, I'm glad you saved your despair for the D block.
I saved it for that top 5.
Yeah, that's why we call it the D block. The D is for despair.
These blocks.
And we have plenty of despair, and we have a Because Miami complaint line, 786-505-9842. 786-505-9842. And now, the Wheel of Despair. Roy?
Okay, we got digging up native burial grounds.
Jesus.
Wow, poltergeist. Calling the cops on librarians. And
like you pause there for.
I'm sorry,
for applause, for laughter,
no, for the sadness,
for sadness. Okay, yeah. For despair,
and Ponzi Postalita. Gonna Ponzi Postalita. Are you ready?
Spin the wheel, Roy.
All right,
thank you.
Calling the cops on librarians came up first.
Two members of Moms for Liberty, a right-wing activist group, they have reported several Florida school librarians to law enforcement, claiming that there's child pornography. One such member, Jennifer Tapley, and a friend went to the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office to complain that a 17-year-old had checked out from a high school a young adult novel. Like it's a book about it's called Storm and Fury by Jennifer Armentrout, and it's basically about humans and gargoyles fighting demons. It's like one of these Twilight-esque kind of, young adult fantasy kind of novels, but she's very concerned that it might be too sexy for a 17-year-old. So Popular.info published there's body cam video, Roy. There's body cam video of this woman and her friend going into the sheriff's office with a young child to complain about this book and ostensibly try to get a high school librarian arrested.
This is the head librarian of the school district. This is a screenshot showing she has been a member of Santa Rosa County Stop Moms for Liberty since May.
What is Stop Moms for Liberty?
So Moms for Liberty, not Stop Moms. Moms for Liberty is a group that's bringing attention to this, trying to get rid of these books. They call this book banning. It's not book banning. We just want them moved out where they were never supposed to be there in the first place. We would like them donated to the public library so that county dollars aren't wasted. Actually, personally, wouldn't want them anywhere, but the compromise is that we'll send them over to the public library. Anyway, the governor says this is child pornography. It's a serious crime. It's just as serious as if I handed a Playboy to her right now, right here in front of you. It's just as serious, according to the law. I got the purchase order. This is the purchase order showing that a really bad one that has an entire book on for now, I would like to do this anonymously. I'll give you my ID, but I don't want it to be searchable if somebody at the school were to try to figure out who came here.
This is not our thing. It's the school district thing.
What does she want us to do?
An investigation to be opened up.
For a crime?
They're saying that a crime has been committed and is being committed in all of these schools.
Yeah, she does say that.
I think she was right the first time when she said, "Stop Moms for Liberty." Let's stop Moms for Liberty, please.
What was that she whispered? The book was about anal and oral sex. That's what she was whispering. And of course, I love that Jennifer Tapley wanted to remain anonymous, even though she was on body cam video in the sheriff's office the entire time. You heard the sheriffs at the end talking about how this is ludicrous. There's no crime here. She could take this up with the school or the librarian, but there's obviously not anything that they're going to arrest somebody over. Also, you heard her say there that she doesn't want to ban the books. I mean, she wants to ban the books, but they won't let her, so she's got to compromise somehow. Roy, just spin the wheel, please.
Ponzi Postalita gonna Ponzi Postalita.
Ay, Dios mío. So,
if you put garbage in, you're gonna get garbage out.
Later, you got any more?
Turns out, I'm just gonna. This is my wheel. This is my wheel of despair over here.
In Miami, we are definitely not woke.
You got that right.
It turns out that the city of Miami has spent more than $20,000 on the presidential campaign trail for security for Mayor Suarez. Absolute violation of local and state ethics laws, the absolute abuse of power, an abuse of taxpayer dollars. This is on top of the over $1 million that the city spends to protect him 24/7, including cops sitting outside his empty house. I'm just absolutely outrageous waste of taxpayer dollars. And also at the debate this week, Francis Suarez was in the Adrian Arch Center, probably one of the most secure buildings in all of Miami this week, with not one but two police officers in uniform for no reason other than to just make him look important, because otherwise nobody would look twice at him. But if he's got two armed guards, uniformed Miami cops around him, they'd be like, oh, that's he must be somebody important. It turns out he's not. He's just
Bad Bunny.
Underhanded man-child fail, son.
And also a
vapid nipple baby with the brain of a mosquito.
You got more?
I know. I think I've done the whole row.
Oh,
I've done the whole line, dude.
Yeah, you did.
Bang, bang, snort, snort.
Yeah, you did some bumps.
Spin the wheel.
I mean, we got 3 things on this thing. I don't even know why I spun the room. I'm taking up native burial grounds.
The third and final. The third and final. Yeah, we've talked about this on the show before. In fact, we had a University of Miami archaeologist to talk about this extraordinary find along the Miami River, which shows that civilization and human habitation of Miami happened 5,000 years earlier than we even know, in pursuit of building 3 condos waterfront along the river, just really a fraction of a mile away from what used to be the oldest archaeological or historic native site, I should say, with signs of civilization, which dated back, I think, about 2,000 years. They now estimate, Roy, that this could be at least 7,000 years old and even predate the pyramids in Egypt. So this is an extraordinary find. And of course, it is, in addition to artifacts and post holes for structures, there's also human remains there as well. So this is effectively a native burial ground. And needless to say, this is of the Tequesta tribe, which doesn't really exist anymore. So, the Miccosukee and the Seminoles are quite upset about it. And things came to a head this week at a City of Miami Historic Preservation Board meeting.
The plan should be null and void, first of all.
Excuse me. We can't have direction from the public at this point.
All right, but if you're not listening... Excuse me?
Please respect this forum.
I am trying to respect, but you're not respecting our ancestors. You're letting it get grave robbed, and you're letting it go even further. They already stole more than 10,000 belongings and remains. Why are you going to make it a historic site when you're going to let it get raped? I don't understand your concept.
I'd just like to make a comment. Let's just remember we're volunteers here. We're all trying to do our best by our city.
They just put up $2 million for a colonial lighthouse.
Take it up with your commissioners. There's elections today. We have like a sorry 5% turnout.
I'm taking it up with you. That's your job to protect these guys.
Please maintain order. We are doing our job.
You're not protecting nothing. You're inept at your job. Inept.
Motion and second. The motion is second. We have a roll call. If you want to appeal it.
Oh, we will.
That was a very pissed off Robert Rosa, chairman of the American Indian Movement of Florida. And that brings us to this week's Miami Moment, where we return to Hialeah for the Trump rally, competing with the GOP debate happening across town at the Adrian Arch Center. Of course, Trump lied about the crowd size, saying there's tens of thousands of people here. Of course, capacity was only about 5,200, and there was plenty of empty seats. But speaking of
underhanded man-child fail, son.
Gimenez.
Don Jr. was there.
Oros comandro.
Bang, bang, snort, snort.
I think I've used all the cards today, Roy. This is some sort of new record. But this few excerpts from Don Jr.'s speech at this rally will give you just an idea of the arroz con manbro, and that is, by the way, Spanish for cluster. Had to get one F-bomb.
God damn it.
And you go ahead and use the Lord's name in vain. I say you bleep that.
Okay.
Cocaines.
They can loot, riot, steal, murder, But no, in the name of social justice, it's different. It's fine.
Talk about it. Please talk about it.
I'm trying. You may do a better job of this than me, sir. Think of the people right now in the last couple of months who've been sentenced to 20 years in jail for peacefully protesting. Meanwhile, I'm watching anti-Semites chanting for genocide at some of the finest universities. I say finest in air quotes because at this point, they're full of